Hello and welcome back to my Outdoor Activities channel. Today we'll have another installment of story time. And today's story revolves around activities that went on back in 1984. As the story goes, my father had a good friend whose name was Lee Moons, who was a horse trainer. He trained cutting horses, and he was really trying to, and he trained quarter horses, and he was really trying to improve his own brand and take it to the next level. He had a nice training facility in Montpelier, Idaho, and he had taken on a partner, a man who was a Chicagoland car dealer by the name of Manny Clausen. And so he had backing, and he was getting the horses. He was getting some great bloodlines. Now, what he didn't know was that Manny Clausen was tied into the mob in Chicago, and they were looking for ways to launder money. And they were laundering money through his car dealerships, and they were also had invested all this money in Lee's training operation. And unbeknownst to Lee, Manny started putting big insurance policies on all these horses. One of the horses they owned was a horse named Knob Reed. Knob Reed was a cutting horse, and a really good cutting horse. He died in April of that year. He was leading the points, the number one cutting horse in the nation, when he was killed. He died in a barn fire in Florida. Now, of course, this was upsetting. He was such a great horse that even in the fall, when at the end of the season, he was still fifth in the nation amongst all cutting horses and had been killed in April. Not long after Knob Reed died, another horse was killed in a barn fire. And Lee Moons started to figure out something was amiss. Something's going on. This is not normal. These horses are getting killed like this. He figured out that it was Manny who was behind killing the horses, and he starts hiding them. One day he was sending an American colt to Redding, California, and he was coming back from California. He sent a driver off from Montpelier, Idaho, and didn't even tell him where he was going. He didn't want the guy to even know. Afraid he might just out of conversation tell somebody, yeah, I'm headed here. All he had told him was head towards California. Lee met him on the road, told him where he was going. 50 miles down the road, that horse trailer, which was carrying a Marin colt, was firebombed. The Marin colt was killed. Lee starts panicking, and he just starts selling off all the colts, the mares. He was just getting in. So he was calling people he knew, and he knew my father. And he called my father, and he goes, I've got this 2-year-old filly that you need to come look at. He said, I think you're really going to like her. And so my dad, my brother, and I went down there to Montpelier to look at this mare. And she was truly impressive. And Lee had already told Dad what was going on, what had been happening. And he told him, so I've got to get rid of these. He says, I'll give you a good deal. He says, take the mare, get her out of here today. And so we loaded the mare up and we went home. This was in February of 1984. We went through the high school rodeo season that year. And I'd had a good season, and things had gone well, and I had made it to state that year, and we had just got home from the state finals. So Lee Moons calls my father and says, "You need to hide that mare I sold you." And Dad goes, "Why? What's going on?" He goes, "Well, Manny Clausen is being vindictive, and any horse that they own together, he's trying to kill." And so this, of course, panicked my father. My father's best idea was to send the horses out to the desert. Now, out on the Arco Desert, there's an area called the Horse Corrals. And all it is it's a natural volcanic pit. And the way the formations are is you can turn horses in there and put up about, 100 feet of fence in one place and 200 feet of fence in another place, and you've got a natural horse corral. So my father, his best idea to protect this mare was to send him to the desert. Well, at the same time, we had 4 other mares that looked very similar to this mare named Nobline, and Dad decided all of them needed to go out to the desert because, who knows who this guy's sending after to kill these horses? Are they going to be able to identify? Or are they just going to start killing horses? So Dad sent me to the desert. So I jumped on one horse and led 3 others and rode out to the horse corrals. It took me a good day to get out there. And I got set up. And the horse corral's not far from what's called a water collector, where it actually has a tank that's built out there. So any rainwater is collected in this tank. So I had a place to water the mares, had a place to feed them, and I basically was just hanging out there camping. Now, my father would I had 2 friends, Shane Lish and Kenneth Jensen, who would come out and spend time with me, and they would alternate weeks with me. And on the weekend, whenever the day we would change, we would meet at Mosby Butte, and the 3 of us would hang out for a bit, and one of them would be bringing supplies. And to pass the time, we'd sit on top of Mosby Butte. Now, Mosby Butte out there, you can see anything coming for miles, and we would just watch, because we had no idea. We hadn't heard anything other than my father had seen this same Chevy Blazer driving by our place time and time again. It was a 1978 cream-colored Chevy Blazer. One day he got tired of seeing it and started following it and noticed that it had out-of-state plates on it and had 2 guys driving it that you wouldn't normally see running around Idaho. And he kept seeing this Blazer, and so the next time he was sending one of the guys out was Kenneth coming out. He told him, he goes, "You guys need to be real watchful out there because I've seen these guys and I think they're watching the place. They might be watching everything." So Kenneth got out to Mosby Butte and we drove down to camp, and Shane was still there, and he decided to just hang around for a while. We were just enjoying the evening. And then as it was getting dark, we rode on top of Mosby Butte. Kenneth told me what Dad had said, that we needed to be real watchful. And that night, we're sitting on top of Mosby Butte. We see a vehicle working its way across the desert. Now, normally, people stick to the roads out there because you get off-road on that desert and it's rough. You can travel faster on a horse than you can in a vehicle. But we're watching this vehicle come across the desert. And Kenneth makes a comment. He goes, "I believe that vehicle is right on my trail." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He says, "I think they're looking for us." So we sat there and watched. And we took turns sleeping during the night, and we watched that vehicle. And it finally stopped, and it just sat. And we watched it all night, and then the next morning, here was this cream-colored Blazer. And they continued on, and they were right on our tracks. So the 3 of us got talking and said, we need to have some fun with these guys. We're going to play a little cat and mouse. Because we knew we could outrun them. We're on horses. We're on the desert. There's no way a vehicle's going to keep up with us.
Home turf.
So we sat there. We saddled up. We had 3 mares we were leading. and we waited until that Bronco or that Blazer got about 200 yards off. We made sure they saw us, and then we started off cross country going from Mosby Butte over to Government Cave. We had a plan. We figured we could draw these guys around Government Cave and somehow disable their vehicle. And I guess just to level set, one thing to know is at this stage in our lives, you know, we're teenagers, we didn't ever go to the desert unarmed. And I always carried with me a short barrel shotgun, semi-automatic, loaded with buckshot for hunting coyotes. And that's really what you use on coyotes. And it worked well. So we headed towards Government Cave. Okay, I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to cut that segment, and we'll have part 2 out right directly. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. Leave comments if you'd like. Have a great day.